All right, hey everybody. So, I've been kind of chatting with a friend, and you may have seen in one of my posts where I may speak about my um, process as I went through my divorce. And today I did a video earlier talking about how do you feel when you come out of the wilderness. And, I was laughing and joking about it. And it's interesting enough that I kind of came home and I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this video and I'm going to lay it down. And this one may be a little bit longer. Normally I do them, the videos are 8 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the most. But I really want to take a moment and just chat about a couple of things. And I may even jot down a couple of things as I'm talking. But I know I want to talk about the beginning. I want to talk about the middle. And I want to talk about the end. And before I do that, I really just want to have a word of prayer. So, dear Heavenly Father, I just come, Lord God, thanking you for today. Father, I thank you for the words that I will speak on this evening, that they will speak healing to someone in whatever circumstance or situation that they are in. Father, may someone else be able to learn from the lessons that I've already gone through, and may they even be strengthened by knowing that I came through it. For you said in your word that, yea, though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, that we will fear no evil, for you art with us. And so with that, Lord God, we lean and we trust and we depend that every situation and every place that our foot tread or our feet tread, Lord God, that you are with us. And so no matter what the circumstance, Lord, we know that in the end we win because we will be victorious in you. And so we ask these and all of the blessings in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen. And so I tonight had to just have that word of prayer for myself. And I did because, earlier today, I don't know why my hair looking kind of funny to me. But anyway, earlier today, I was laughing and joking about the how did you feel when you come out of the wilderness. And on the other side of going through a separation or divorce, you can eventually find happiness and joy and peace and things of that sort. But there is nothing like the broken space of going through that. Like only somebody that has ever been through it will know what it's like. And when it's really ugly, only those people will really be able to share in that level of your process. And so, for the sake of this video, this will be more, I feel, like a teaching or a training video more so than it will be just informational. And I'm saying that because there is somebody that is going to hear this video that is going through the exact same thing, and they need to hear this at this moment so that it can change the trajectory of their life and what their outcome is. And when I say change the trajectory, it's either going to convict someone to do right and do differently, or it is going to release someone to be able to know that they can now walk out what their divine destiny is to close that chapter. So either one or two things are going to happen. This video is either going to help somebody to fix their marriage, or it is going to solidify that season is over. And so I'm going to start in the beginning. When I met my ex-husband, and I want to be fair to him, so I think I have a little nervousness right now because of the fact that I really want to make sure that I'm not villainizing what happened between the two of us, but that I paint a picture of what happens when you marry, like later on in life and things happen. And you might hear some moving around going on because I'm actually in the house and my family is here. They're moving around, so you may hear that. Unfortunately, I thought everybody was just gonna be in their room, but anyway. So when I met him, just to tell you guys, I was actually at a friend's house, and we were standing there talking. I had gone to exercise that morning. I was in their kitchen with her and her husband, and her phone rang. And when she answered the phone, she told her husband, she was like, "Hey babe, this so and so and so." And so she answers the phone, she starts talking to this person. I'm talking to her husband, we talking, chit chatting, and all of a sudden, she's like, "Man," and she kind of says, "I got somebody I want you to meet," and so she kind of just said to him, "She's a nice lady, got her own house, got her own car, got a good job, blah blah blah, got two sons, this, that, and the other." And so I never forget that day he said something to her like, what does she need me for then? You know, like if she already got all that, what does she need me for? And that is going to come back into play as I chat with you guys. So, based upon that, you know, at some point he called her back and he asked her, could he possibly get my number? And so she called and she said, hey, you know, I'm not going to just give out your number. You know, I wanted to know, he wanted to know if it would be okay if I gave it to you and then to him. And so we talked about it and she said, well, I just want to say this. You know, I've known him for many years, but I really don't know him like personally. And I will say that nobody knows a person like the people who live in the house with that person. So we all can present something to people on the outside, but only the people who live in the home with you know what that's really like. And so basically, you know, I told her, I said, well, yeah, you know, I didn't have nobody else I was seeing at the time. And I said, yeah, give him my number. And so she gave him my number and we started talking. And we conversed for about 2 months on the phone. And then he called me one day and he said, okay, I think we talked on the phone enough. I want to actually meet you. And so he was like, can I take you to dinner? I said, sure. And so, and I am going to try to put some fun in here so it's not so heavy. But, you know, he said, sure. And so the day that it came that it was for us to go to dinner, I couldn't get a child care. I couldn't get nobody to keep my kids. And my kids are 12 years apart. I had a 12-year-old at the time, or he might have been 11, just turned, no, he was 12. And then my son was 1. And so my youngest son was 1. And so, you know, I called him and I said, hey, I know, you know, we were supposed to go to dinner tonight, but I can't get a sitter. And, you know, I was just planning on it just being us. And so he said, well, I tell you what, just bring the kids too. And so I said, well, you sure, you know, you want to do that? And he was like, yeah, I've been talking to you, just bring the kids as well. And so I packed the kids, we got dressed, and he came and picked us up and we went to dinner. And so, nice dinner and everything. And I don't know why I feel so nervous. But anyway, we went to dinner and things went well. And I do want to just prerequisite and say, like, that time, and I think really what I will name this video is don't date while you're in your broken space. If I had to tell you anything else that will stick with you, don't date while you're in your broken space. And unless you know you're truly in a healed place. And so we went to dinner and everything, and then, you know, we started talking a little bit more seriously, and he was pursuing me just like I was talking to him. Like, it was a good thing. I can't tell you it was a love thing. It was a good thing. It was a good space for us. It was a good opportunity for us to, he had been married twice. Yeah, he had been married twice. And I was his third wife. And so, you know, I thought he was of age. Now, I will say this, disclaimer, he's 16 years older than me. So in my mind, I was thinking, well, you know, with what I had already been through, he should be past the Playboy stage. He should be past running the streets. Like, you know, I'm thinking to myself, 16 years, he's good. And so, and at the time he was 55, I was 39 when we met. My 40th birthday happened like right around the time that when we first met. And so anyway, I'm gonna speed this up. So we got together, we talked about it and everything, and then we started talking about getting married. And he actually lived in another area, another state over, and it was not so bad because where I live, you can drive an hour to 2 hours every day just to get to work. Like, it's nothing for people to drive an hour in Atlanta to get from one point to the next. That's a norm. And so because of where he lived, he was driving against the grain. It was like easy for him to come here. He did not have a home that he had to give up or anything. And so I had just built a home, and so it was room in the home for him. So, you know, he came here and he made this his home. And he drove back and forth every day to his job. And so, you know, we talked about it. It was, like I said, it wasn't like a love thing, like, oh, I'm so in love with you, this, that, and the other. It was more or less, hey, I think, you know, if we bring our resources together, we talk about things, we discuss what we kind of want in life, and I felt like I could give him what he had said he missed in his previous marriages and what was not there. And I felt like, we could make it. And so we got married the following April. So we met in August of 1 year, 2009, or 2009. And then we got married in 2010 in April. And so, the first year was probably pretty decent. But then we started having some challenges. And when I say we started having some challenges, like I started seeing things that I already had seen prior to. And those challenges were eventually within like a year and a half time period, he stepped out of our marriage with an old friend. And from there, it just was like trying to climb up a slippery mountain. It was constant something, because that shook me, like it surprised me first of all. But there were so many things that when I look back that I did wrong. Like there were red flags that I ignored. And when I say red flags, again, I don't want to paint him as a villain or anything like that, because he was a great provider. He helped me with my kids. He loved my children. Like they still call him now and check on him and stuff. Father's Day, they're going to definitely wish him a happy Father's Day and check on him and for his birthday. I even tell them, you guys make sure y'all text him or whatever, because what happened between he and I did have something to do with my kids, but it didn't have anything to do with how he treated my kids. And so the long and the short is just that kind of shook me to my core, because it was just so unexpected. Like I was thinking, like, what are you doing? Like, you did what? And so in the way that I found out, first of all, a lot of marriages, people talk about them not having relationships and sex and there's no commitment to it. That was not the case. So there was not an issue with us when it came down to that. Now, I was back in school, and I was in school, and so one of the things that he said he made the decision. It wasn't me making the decision. He said he made the decision, and he felt like I was too tired and I didn't have time for him. And I kind of just, like I told him, I have to rebut that, because I'm very intentional with making sure that, my mate knows that I'm there. But I also had to look at the fact that I had a younger child. I may not have had as much time, but I'm the type of person that I don't believe that your children should absorb all your time, because at some point your kids are going to get older, they're going to grow up, they're going to get out and get their own families and relationships. And I think that's where a lot of people make their mistakes. You have to make time for your mate. Even if you say it's going to be once a month, everything around you has to shut down for that 24-hour time period to be focused in on nothing but them, if that's the way that it's going to be. And so we had times that oftentimes I get a babysitter, or I get somebody to keep the kids, or if my kids were going to their dads or something like that, that I'd be like, hey, we can get away for a weekend or something like that. That was usually me initiating that, because that's kind of what I felt like he needed. He was not the touchy-feely, like I'm a touchy-feely type person. If I'm with you, I'm holding your hand, I'm touching you, I'm playing in your hair, I'm rubbing your back. Like that's kind of just my natural state. So he wasn't really accustomed to that. And so we really just came from two different worlds of how we saw relationships. He saw relationships more as a transactional type situation, and I saw relationships as a transitional like relationship. And when I say transactional and transitional, when I was in school, one of my leadership classes, it talks about you have transactional leaders and you have transitional leaders. I'm a transitional leader. Transactional leader is a transactional person. They are more concerned with the bottom line. What is the number? Like, can we hit our numbers? Did we make our mark? Did we get what we needed to accomplish? I'm more of a transitional leader. I'm going to be concerned about the whole person. So I want to hit the numbers, but if you're not happy, you're not safe, your mental state is not right, your emotional status is not where it needs to be, I'm going to be concerned about us making sure all of that comes together so that you can be successful to hit those numbers. And we just were different in that area. And so when I say we had some good times, like when I really look back on it, those good times came from, they were all pretty much initiated and driven by me. It was like, man, we could do this, and he would say, okay, let's do that. Like, he was good with it. He was happy with what he was experiencing, but it was different for him. And it wasn't until, as we went on in the relationship, and I kept looking at different things, and we would travel and go places. Like, one thing about me is I felt like, as the head of my household, he paid the majority of the bills. I took care of my car note and my insurance and things like that. But I made sure that we went on a vacation every year, because by him handling the bulk of the regular bills, I did have, like, light bill, electric bills, things like that. But he paid the mortgage. And he made more than me, so naturally he felt that that was his responsibility. But that's the type of guy that he is. However, one of the things that I really had to look at is that he had never really had a woman that loved him for him. And for the men, I will eventually do a video, and I want to talk about, you all stop leading with your wallets. You lead with your wallet, but then you want love. And he had never met a woman that did not necessarily want him for his money. And so he didn't really know how to respond to that. He didn't know how to manage that. Like, what do I do with this woman that don't just want me to pay her bills, or she actually wants me to come home? She actually wants me to go spend Friday night evenings with her. She actually wants to go to dinner. She actually wants to lay in the bed with me and watch a movie. She actually wants to sit on the sofa and watch the game with me. Like, what do I do with this? Because I don't know what to do with that. I know what to do with paying her bill and saying, here go $200, go do something that you want to do. If you want a new purse, I'll buy that for you. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, if that's the relationship that you're going to build. But what I will say is, what I have learned over the years is that is a component that is an error in many marriages right now. There are many marriages that are built and based upon a transaction. And because it's based upon a transaction, then it's hard to get transition when the basis and the foundation of that relationship was based on what the person could do for you. I'm going to pause right there. So, long story short, we went on. I mean, when I tell you, he is probably one of the best people to take care of my kids. He supported me with continuing to raise them. He would pick them up from school. Like, he was the best bonus dad that a kid could have. And oftentimes I was more the disciplinary in the household than he was. He would be like, babe, they boys, let that go. Don't worry about that, And I would be all tightwad. Get over there, put this over here, put this like this, da 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 da. He'd be like, hey, let that go, And so there was a good balance for me, because one of the things that he did teach me is he taught me how to relax. Like, he ain't finna never be the type of person to have no stroke or nothing like that. Or if he is, he don't let it show in that way. But the other thing that was there was the monetary thing. And that's why, if you look at my video from a couple of days ago, I talked about, I'm asking questions about everything up front early now. No, what's your credit score? How you look at finances? What do you think about this? How many times do you think that we should be sexually active per week? Because I want y'all to understand, I have a brother friend online that's doing some videos about how men are unhappy, but I need you to know it's a lot of women that's unhappy too in that area. Surprisingly, y'all might be surprised to hear that, but there are a lot of women that are dissatisfied in the area of intimacy and sex. I have to come back and do a whole video on that. But, and I want to say that in our relationship, that was not something that was denied of him, even with what we went through. So after I found out about the affair, like, it really did hurt me. It shook me to my core, because even though in the beginning I may not have been in love with him at first, by that time I had fallen in love with him. I was in love with him. And so when that happened, we went to counseling and things like that, and we worked through it for a while. But there's something that my brother always says, and I never really understood it, but I understand it more now. And he always said, Marion, the core of a man you can't change. The core of who that man is, you can never change that. What you have to do is look at the core and say, can I deal with this? Can I live with this? Is this something that I'm going to be able to accommodate? Because the core of who he is never going to change. There were some things financially that he was doing prior to us meeting that he was still doing in the marriage. I was the one who had credit. I was the one who was concerned with credit. I was the one who built his credit back up. When I met him, he didn't have that. Bills being owed, people outstanding. Like, I cleaned all that up and got him back on track, because that's what I do. And that, when we talk about he that findeth a wife, findeth a good thing and finds favor with the Lord. If she can't come in and bring something like that to the table, but the thing is, the person has to already want that. Like, you can't want their credit to be better than they want it to be. Otherwise, it ain't going to work. And so it was a constant slippery slope. So I kind of put that component out there because I wanted to share that with y'all. And I'm just looking at the time on my clock. And I don't know, like, I feel so nervous. Like, even if y'all can tell, I'm talking in a more softer tone, because this is not a comfortable space for me. Even though I knew God would use it, I am not comfortable right now. And so the other thing was, towards the end, when we finally did get to that place, the marriage did not just stop for that one time for cheating. It was continuous. And if you listen to my video from the other day, I talked about how I had convinced myself that I would just stay in the marriage. I had convinced myself that, okay, I got the house, because we had bought another house. We got a really good deal. Like, I had rental properties and things like that. And so I was always looking for deals. A house in the same neighborhood that I had built a home in came available, and the neighbor knew that I really liked the house, and she was like, hey, we're going to lose the house. They were going through a divorce, and she said, we're going to lose the house. I think, you love it. You ought to try to get it. And like, when I say we got this house at a steal, it is a steal. And so, we ended up getting the house, and I thought that maybe once we got this house, it would help him, his esteem. Maybe, now we in a house that got your name on it, you're going to feel more manly, and it's going to be better for you. Like, maybe that was what it was, but it's not. You can't change those things. A house does not change a person. You can buy a person a house and a car and, all of those components, but if they're not happy within themselves and that's not something that they really want to do, they're not going to do it. And so this house didn't change anything. Now, he liked the bragging rights that came along with that. Oh, he could tell his friends, oh yeah, we got this, we got that, we got this, we got that. I don't really care about that. See, you got a woman that don't care about things. So when you have a woman that don't care about things, she is going to approach her man differently than a woman that does. If it's a woman that's driven by a purse, she gonna treat her man differently, because she's only going to put into him when she's trying to get a purse, when she's trying to get a car, when she's trying to get some shoes, when she wants something, she want to go on a vacation. She's not going to pour into him just because that's her natural state. So just like men have a core, so do women. We have a core. Who I am, I would have done for any man what I did for him. I just so happened to have been doing it for the wrong man. And it ain't no fault of his, because some of the things that went on in our marriage for us to stay together as long as we did, some of it was my fault. I should have made a decision and said, no, you cannot treat me like this. No, we cannot argue like this in the house. No, we're not going to function like this. Like, this is it. This is where we draw the line. And I would draw the line sometimes, but then I would go back on that. Because when you're in a marriage, you try to stay in the marriage. And I remember closer to the end, people were, my son was in high school by then, my oldest son, and he was in middle school when we met. He was in high school, and I'll never forget, I was trying to find myself. I was trying to find some happiness, some joy, and I was losing weight and doing things because my mental capacity, now that I look back on it, it was not good. Like when I look back at the pictures of me during that time, I can see it. And so, like, now that I'm in a happy place and I'm in my healed place and I'm whole again and I got my relationship with God back, like, I can see how broken I was. Like, when I look back at my pictures, I was like, wow, that was me. I was smiling. You still saw me, but I could see it in my eyes. I could see it in the distress that other people couldn't see. And so I walked through that process, and many people, like, once I came out of it, they were like, girl, you never would have known you were going through all that. Like, not so much that I bashed him or that we faked the funk in front of other people, but I never allowed myself to be broken but in front of a few people. My core group of friends, they knew. And then there were friends who, they were like, man, I just really wish y'all could make it. Like, you know, my friends weren't like, yeah, go forth and get this done. You know, like, man, let's see what we can do to help y'all. Like, can I talk to him? If my husband talked to him, you think that if they go on a trip and maybe let's do some couple things together. Like, it was always that kind of stuff. But in the end, y'all, this is where it gets good. So, and I'm not going to tell y'all everything. I'm just going to give y'all some tidbits. But in the very end, he had moved out of the house. When COVID happened, COVID put us in a position where it was like, no, we're not going to be able to do this. I was saying, I'm not going to be able to do this. And I was like, no, let's just figure out how we're going to move forward, because I know I can't stay in the house with you like this every day. Like, and we were arguing one time, and I'll never forget my son, he's 16 now. But you know what, COVID was 5 years ago, so he had to be about 10 or 11. And one day, it was a Friday night. We'll never forget this. And we were home. We had gotten some pizza, and we were in the kitchen, and we were eating. And my son said, he just walked by, and it was so matter of fact. He just walked by and he said, we got, because at that time he had no bass in his voice. We got pizza, we watching a movie, we having family time. It is so good. And he said, and thank God y'all aren't arguing. When I tell you, my babies, who I had made sure that they had a safe environment, that they weren't in a position where they were abused and mistreated. And he said it so matter-of-factly. Like, he just did it, went on, got him some more pizza, and didn't think nothing about it. But out of the mouth of babes, he spoke what was in his heart. Thank God they ain't arguing. That's what the baby said. So what I'm saying to you, for those of you that may be watching this video and you stand together because you said, well, my kids need me to be here. You're ruining the kids. They would much rather see you guys healthy apart than to have you toxic together. I'm going to say that again. Your children are depending on you to show them how they are to treat their mates later on. So what you are showing them is what they are going to then transfer into their households. So what you have to ask yourself is, am I staying together for the relationship, or am I staying together for me? Am I staying together just because it's convenient? Again, I don't want to paint no negative picture of him, but in the end, it was just some ugly stuff, y'all. Some of the stuff that happened to me is so foul, I can't even tell you. I can't tell you about how he would make a mistake and call me, and it's a woman on the other line, and this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Call me, made a mistake, and call me, or either would forget to hang up the phone or didn't hang up the phone. And let me tell you one thing about God. When you walk with him, even when you're not in your right place. See, some of y'all might not be doing what God has called you to do. You might not even be in the place where you're supposed to be. But in your heart, when your heart is pure with him, when you really do mean what you say, when you say, I love you, Lord, he ain't going to let you be out there by yourself. I never went looking looking for anything with my husband. Never went, not one time, looking for nothing. Didn't go through his wallet, didn't go through his emails, didn't go through his phone, none of that. Anytime that something came up, guess what? The Lord would just come and drop it down in my lap. Baby girl, go look at the bank account. Baby girl, go check the phone records. I'm like, what am I looking for? Like, what is this? I don't know what this is. Baby girl, go check this, go check that. And so the final straw was, we were on the phone and we were going back and forth about something. He had gotten smart because he wasn't coming in and out. And I was telling him, hey, you know, you got one foot in the door here, one foot out. Sometimes you come home, sometimes you don't. I don't really like that because I don't never know when you're going to be here, when you're not. I don't know when to lock the door, when not to lock the door. Like, I don't feel safe with you coming in and out like that. And then I don't know who you bringing in and out with you. So at that point, it was like, just wherever you going, like if you got somewhere to stay 2 days, 3 days out the week, get stuff and go on. Like, let me help you get there. I want to help you get to wherever it is that you're going. And so he was like, no, I ain't going nowhere. That's my house. I pay the mortgage, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, don't pay the mortgage. You know, if I can get you going, it's plenty of people that will pay the mortgage. I want you to understand, like, it ain't no lack of that in the land. And so that wasn't the point, though. The point was not about me getting someone else. The point was about me being whole in myself. And the night that there was a night that we were on the phone and he was going back and forth telling me what he wasn't gonna do, this, that, and the other. He had been drinking. When I say drinking, he had a good amount of drink. And that night he forgot to hang up the phone, y'all. And when he forgot to hang up the telephone, he ended up staying on the phone with me. There was another woman that was there. And he was telling the woman about how he didn't care nothing about me. He didn't care nothing about me, this, that, and the other. When he tell her something is this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. And then that joker called me something that to this day, I told him, I said, I'm going to have you a t-shirt made with that on it. And I'm going to let you wear that with pride. On the phone, he called me a micromanaging M. Yep, he did. Yep, he did. And I heard it. And the next day he had to go. Like, he had to go. I called him and I said, I need you to come get your stuff. Because that was it. And that was the breaking point for me. I already had seen places in the marriage where I was no longer myself. Like, if y'all been watching my videos, I laugh a lot, I play a lot. Like, I'm happy. Genuinely, in my house, it is a happy place. But it was not. And with that, I said that he had to go. And so from there, I started my healing process. I got in touch with a counselor. I had already been going to counseling and things like that, but just not able to find that footing. And I started my journey to healing. And so there's a lot more that could be said. And he regrets that. Like, he apologized profusely, but like I told him, you'll never live that down. Like, sometimes now, even if I have to pick up the phone, because we do still have to converse about some things. We don't have any children together, but there are some things that financially had us bound together, and trying to work through those processes. And so every now and then, you know, I'd be like, what's up, MMM? I told him I was gonna get him a t-shirt made. And we gonna brand that right there. You done called me out my name. Me? Like, I'm not even the type of, no woman should be called that. No man. I mean, you might could say that about your men or whatever, but me? Like, and I think that's what I thought. I was like, why would he do that to me? Why would he do that to me? And what I want you to understand, that whatever is being done to you, whether it's a man or a woman that's listening to this, the core of a person had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with that person. And so when I came to a place that I realized that what happened between he and I, he would have done that to anybody. It was not just me. It had nothing to do with my love for him. It had everything to do with his love for himself. And because he didn't have self-love, he couldn't pour it into me. So the thing is, look at yourself and ask yourself, do you love yourself? How do you feel about you? If you guys heard me on a few of my videos back, You know, I talked about the fact like there's nothing lacking. I can stand in the mirror and tell my own self, girl, you look good today, and mean that. So I think I have one of the best smiles ever. And somebody complimented me on my giggle. I I think that I have one of the most, what do they call it, infectious laugh. Like when I start laughing, it makes other people laugh. So but that's my natural state. That's the way God made me. And when I come into environments now where it begins to change that in my dating process, it's a whole lot different. And so I've only been on a few dates because when I go on that date, I already know, okay, well, thank you so much for this evening. I'd be happy to pay half the bill. They're like, no, I invited you out. Okay, good. Well, we'll talk at another time. And so if they call me and ask me on another date, I may say, no, I won't go on another. They're like, well, why? And I said, well, if you like, I will share with you and I'll tell them, you know. I just can see some things that I know would not be a good fit. And what happens is when you become healed, you see the broken places in other people. And so, does that mean that everybody, because we all are growing, we all are developing, we all are moving towards a higher point in ourselves. But when you have done the work, one of the things my counselor told me, she said, you've done the work. She said, you have done the work. I have looked at myself and said what I did wrong. I have called him and apologized for it. If this day when I did this, that caused you to respond this way, like I really do want to apologize to you for this. And I quit blaming him. Like, stop blaming the other person. Blame yourself. You are responsible for what you allowed to happen in that marriage. Good, bad, ugly. If you allowed them to mistreat you, you allowed that. If you allowed him to talk to you in a kind of way, you allowed that. If you allowed her to use your wallet as an ATM machine, you allowed that. You enabled a person that don't want to do. So oftentimes I would enable him because when he would spend money, I would go and make up for it. Well, I should have just let the lights get turned off. I should have just let the water get turned off. I should have just allowed whatever he was doing with his money, because it came down to one of my friends. They were like, hey, do you think he got another family somewhere? Because he made enough money. Like, what was going on? And as conservative as I am, it just was not adding up. But okay, I think I might have to do a part 2. But for today, that's part 1, y'all. It took a lot for me to share that. And again, he's a great person. He would give people the shirt off his back. And so once I came to a place that I understood that what happened between he and I, it just wasn't all him. If he had met me in my healed place, we probably never would have gotten married. But since I wasn't, then that's my fault, because I should have been in the garden where God had me. I wasn't. And then I tried to, marry and say, here, Lord, please now fix this, please. No, he had some of those things. I saw that before we got married. And sometimes women, we think that if we marry them, they will change. At 55, he was not going to change. Who he was who he was. And he would tell me that a lot of times. I ain't finna do it. And he didn't. He didn't adjust and accommodate for that. Now, did he care about me? I think he did. But, he didn't understand the institution of marriage from a Christian perspective. And when you marry someone that does not understand that, if you are a Christian, and my channel is for people who are looking to try to live based upon Christian principles and kingdom purpose, then you have to understand that you can't expect for them to do that if they don't know who Christ is. If they don't have a relationship with him, and at least desire one, like are working towards that. Because I don't think that everybody gonna meet somebody in church. I tell people all the time, I know men that are way more godly than some of the dudes that might be meeting you at the door when you come in. And they are men who take care of their families, and they love the Lord, and they live their life as an example of what Christ was to the church. So, but anyway, my time is almost up, y'all. I'll upload this video, and once it posts, I hope you guys will click like, you will share, and you will subscribe. Have a good night.